What's going on, you guys? Uncle Jesse here. Inside this box is another budget-friendly resin 3D printer. That's right, this is the Sparkmaker Resin 3D printer. This is an ideal resin 3D printer for anybody out there that's looking to get started with resin printing. It's supposed to be super simple to work with, really easy interface, and a really nice attractive price point at $250. Now, as usual, I will get right to my initial impressions, and then after that, you can check out the full unboxing and initial setup and print of this printer. Let's check it out. All right, let's talk about the Sparkmaker. I've been printing with this for probably the last 4 or 5 days straight, pretty much. And I have to say, it's been incredibly easy to work with. I've had no major issues. I'll get into some of the things that I wish were a little bit different here in just a minute. But first things first, the price point on this I think is pretty accurate. The retail price for this is $250. So what you'll find for it online. They are running a promotion for this right now where you can get $50 off by buying it through their website. I'll have the code down below in the video and in the description as well if you're interested in picking one of these up for yourself. That code also applies to the upgraded version of this printer that has a larger bed and a more powerful screen. All right, now let's talk about that build volume. That is a little bit smaller than what you're gonna find over on the Elegoo Mars or the Anycubic Photon. To me, that is really the sort of the average or the regular size that I would expect to see on most resin printers. But at this price point, especially at the sale price of $200, it's really not a bad print volume at all. I've got the details listed here along with a comparison as well, just so you can see those numbers and how they stack up. But the printer itself prints absolutely great. As you'll notice, there is no screen to this printer. There's no interface to this. It is really, really simple to use. As you'll see in the unboxing that I'll do after this here, all you really have to do is level the build plate, which by the way, I've only done one time and I have not touched it since, and I have run a lot of prints on this since getting it set up, and it's printed great every single time. The other thing that you'll see here is that since there is no screen or interface to this, there's just a button, a singular button. This controls all of the core functions of the printer. So if you wanted to raise the print bed or lower the print bed, you're going to use this knob by turning it clockwise or counterclockwise. If you want to start a print, you're going to plug in your SD card and then hit the green. Once it turns green, you can hit the button and it's going to start the print. That means that you can't actually have multiple print files on here that you can pick from and select. This is only going to work off of one print file, and I believe it's print.wow is the file that it's looking for on the SD card, that when it turns lights up green, if it sees that, you hit the button and it's gonna print whatever that file is. Apparently there is some sort of a mobile app. I haven't bothered getting that set up, or I couldn't find anything immediately on the App Store in iOS, so maybe it's an Android thing only. I don't know, I didn't delve too much into that. The other thing that I wanted to call out is that I love that the SD card reader is on the front of the machine. I don't know why people put it on the side or in the back. The front is perfect, absolutely perfect. And it's a really small unit in comparison to the other printers as well. So if you are looking for something that's a little bit more of a space saver, you don't really have a lot of desk space, or you want to sit this on a shelf, this is a really nice size that you can have on there, and it's a nice circular display model versus the sort of square that we've seen in other printers. This was also a big Kickstarter campaign from a few years ago that went extremely well, and which is why you're seeing it here. Thankfully, it didn't go under. They also ran another follow-up Kickstarter campaign for the upgraded version of this printer that again has the larger screen and a bigger vat that you can actually print with. So aside from all of those points, a few of the things that I didn't really care for is, I'll go back to that not having a screen. It's hard for me to get used to not having a screen to reference back to, not necessarily to print, to set up the print or do the leveling. That's all fine. It's the monitoring of the print and my print progress that is a really big challenge for me, because I have no idea, is it an hour left? Is it 6 hours left? And in some cases, some of the prints that I did were about 6 to 9 hours long, and I had no idea. I kept constantly coming back and checking on the printer. One of the other things that was a little bit odd to me is there doesn't seem to be an end stop for the Z at the top, and when a print would finish on my unit here, it would just go all the way up, and it would keep going, it would keep going and keep going. I'd have to manually power this off, or eventually it'll stop itself from continuing to try and raise. So that was a little bit odd. I'm sure that's not great in the long run for this printer itself, but that's really it in terms of the things that I dislike. Oh, one of the other really huge benefits to this that I absolutely love, there is a dedicated Chitu box profile for this printer. This printer has its own slicer. I didn't even bother using that. I love Chitu box. You guys have seen all of my videos. Love, love, love Chitu box. All you have to do is, it's as simple as going in, say add printer or add profile, can't remember what the exact function is, and you can select either the standard version here of the Sparkmaker or the HD version, which is the upgraded unit. So that's absolutely great. No pre-programming or anything like that. One of the other awesome benefits to this at being on sale now for $200, and again, I don't know how long that sale is going to last, but that's what I've been told, and I saw that the code was still working when I recorded this video, so fingers crossed it still works for you guys, is that it also comes with 2 full bottles of resin. Not little rinky-dinky bottles of resins, but 2 full bottles. That is absolutely awesome. That's an awesome starting point for you to get going and printing. Everything that I printed, not only here, I'll pull out another model there that I worked on that I want to show you guys, was printed all with 1 bottle of resin, and I still have a good bit left here in the vat and more so here in the container. So you are able to print a good amount with what they've supplied to you. So very, very excited about that. And most importantly, let's cut over, I'm gonna zoom in and we'll take a look at some of the prints that I've done. All right, so first up is this cat file. This was the test print file that was available here on the printer. This is a hollowed out model here that you can see. This thing, I think, took like 6 hours to print. I have no reason why, or no idea why it took so long to print. However, the results were really nice. I'm assuming it must have been at like the highest setting possible for this. But yeah, I mean, it printed beautifully. There's really little to no layer lines that I'm seeing on the print. So I mean, it just came out extremely, extremely nice. Very happy with this. One thing you'll note with all of the prints that I'm gonna show you is that this is white resin, and when you cure white resin in the sun or under a UV lamp, more than likely it will tint yellow or start to turn brown. It's sort of baking the resin, which is just something to be aware of if you're going off and buying some white resin. So very, very nice little print here. All right, the second thing that I printed is my go-to resin print. This is the Mimic file from Cast and Play. This thing is such an awesome print to work with. Printed beautifully. I would say, it printed just as well as I would see on the Mars or the Photon. Certainly better than the Monoprice Mini that I did some tests with. Yeah, I'm actually very, very happy with the results that I'm seeing here with this print. Again, all the details came out on this really, really nicely. The teeth and all the little features on this printed beautifully here on the Sparkmaker here. Certainly a lot better than my other $200 Monoprice Mini. This is easily one of my favorite files to print with. And again, you can find this over on Cast and Play's Patreon as well as their CG Trader account. All right, one that's gonna be a little bit harder for me to show off here are these Lord of the Ring rings here. Yeah, this probably isn't gonna be the best here on the video since it's white and not really picking up the details in the engravings there, and my camera is apparently a little bit out of focus here. Trying to get that in there. There we go. But yeah, I would say in person here is printed very, very nicely. I could have probably done a little bit better job on the supports here. You'll see it's not quite even on one end, but all in all, again, good one. All right, and last but not least, these are all of the files that I've been printing over the last week or so. This is a whole bunch of parts here for a Captain America statue. Let me try and get this assembled here to show it off. And actually, I think I'm gonna get it assembled and then spray paint it just so it can help pick up the details a little bit that you can see better than on the white resin here. All right, here is the model completely assembled. This file is really cool. This is from the 3D Print General, his Patreon page. This is a file that you can pick up over there. I'll have links down below to where you can check that out. This is a file that came in multiple pieces that I was able to print here on the Sparkmaker. This was printed at 50% of the original size of the files, and it's still rather large. It's almost half as tall, maybe it is half as tall, according to the hammer here, to the actual printer itself. This basically utilized most of the build volume in some cases for some of these prints, which is pretty nice to see. This took a handful of days for this to actually finish off and print. The details on this came off pretty darn nice. Again, I sliced this in Chi2 box. It's not as nice of prints that I've seen from some of the other printers like the Elegoo Mars or the Anycubic Photon. However, at a $200 price point, it's really not bad. The details on it are pretty good as well, and I really didn't adjust any of the settings. I just used the basic settings that were available within the profile set up for the actual Sparkmaker resin. So my overall thoughts on this machine is that it's a really great starter resin unit for anybody out there that's interested in getting started with this, especially with that coupon at that $200 price point. For this size build volume, I think that's where the price, the actual retail price, should be for this machine in comparison to some of the other printers that are out there available today. Print quality, again, is really nice. It's not a loud machine by any means, and it's got this really nice small form factor, and again, is just really super easy to use. This is probably the easiest resin printer that I have actually worked with. Oh, and two important things that I forgot to mention. Again, it comes with 2 bottles of resin with this printer. 2 full-size bottles of resin. That's such an awesome thing. And again, there is a dedicated Chi2 box profile built into Chi2 box that you can easily access to get up and running and printing with this machine. That is fantastic. So if you're interested in this, I'll have links down below. Also, I have that coupon code for this particular printer down below if you're interested in that. And remember, that coupon also applies to the HD version of this printer that has a larger build volume and a higher resolution screen. So I just want to say thanks again for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this overview initial look here of the Sparkmaker Resin 3D printer. Had a really great time looking at this. This is definitely not a full review or anything like that. And again, perfect machine for anyone just looking to get started with resin 3D printing. If you're interested in seeing my unboxing of this printer and getting it up and running and my first few prints, make sure to just keep watching this video. We'll be going right into that. Just want to say thanks again for watching, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye now. Ooh, nice. This comes with 2 bottles of resin, which is very nice. More power adapters, my SD card, and a user manual. Remember these things? All right, so let me get this unpackaged here. All right, this looks pretty nice here. Nice style machine. This is a circular style design versus the square that we've seen with a few of the other printers that I've worked with here. It's got a little protective tape to keep the top on during shipping here. Actually, it's a really long piece of tape just to collect some garbage here. Take this out. Ooh, very nice. A Sparkmaker sticker. And then here is my build plate that's all nicely taped into place. Do I have a pair of scissors near me? No. All right, some flat cutters here. It's nice that this came with resin. 2 bottles of resin. It's pretty nice. Okay, so getting the tape off of this guy here. I'm assuming I can, unscrew to get the build plate off. Nice metal design. Actually, this is a little hefty for the size of this. It feels like an all metal vat as well, which is really nice. And then a metal build plate, and all of this is this like a hard plastic? It seems like a hard plastic. I can't tell if it's definitely not metal. It's a hard plastic. Seems like that's used for the actual top of the bed there, or the build plate, I should say. Cool. Get the power. This thing's set up. It has 2 wrenches here. I'm assuming for bed leveling and getting the vat out as well. So what's pretty interesting about this printer to me is that it has a one button interface on the front. So this is what you use to print, this is what you use to resume. I'm assuming it's what you'll use to bed level as well. I'm not entirely sure about that. I'm gonna pause the video here in just a minute so I can read through this manual here. It's nice that actually includes a manual. I do know for a fact as well that the SD card here that this comes with not only has a test print on it, but it should also have different printing firmware. This also works with Chi2Box, which I'm excited about, which I'll be using. And I believe they have their own proprietary slicer that it's also that you can work with. And I believe, from what I was reading online, this also has videos included on it as well, which is a pretty nice touch for any of the digital media that's passed over to you with any of these printers. Actually, I think this is the first time that I've ever had a 3D printer that included videos on an SD card. So again, I'll be taking a look at those and then coming back to you guys and getting this all set up and going. All right, it's powering up. See that little light indicator is turned on. Here I can remove the vat here. The build volume is a bit smaller than what you'd see on an Anycubic Photon or an Elegoo Mars. Just pointing that out as well, but we'll see how the print quality is on this. Pretty excited. It's, again, something that sometimes for 3D printers, they can be a little bit intimidating for people to get into, so this one button design might work out really nicely for some people out there. So I'll try not to get any debris or dirt or anything like that on here. Here's the LCD display as well on this. And I should be able to, let's see, I believe it was, I can use, oh, there's another sticker there. I can use this knob to move it up and down. So there is a little switch on the back end here that'll prevent it from going any further, which is nice as well. So this is how I'm gonna actually end up leveling the build plate for this. So I'm just gonna raise it up here real quick. I was watching one of the videos and it showed running a test print without anything in there first. So here light turns green, meaning it's ready to print. Basically how this works is there is one print file that you're gonna have on the SD card. Then you hit the green button and it should start the print process. And if I need to stop the print, I can long press this button here to stop the actual print. Should not be looking at this without any sort of protective eye gear on, so I'm kind of keeping away, but I see that the lights are working. So I'm gonna long press and pause this. Yeah, there we go. All right, so I've loosened the build plate, the bolts on the side here. I'm gonna slide that back on. Oops, let me raise it up just a little bit more. All right, gonna tighten that in place. This should move freely now. So now I'm gonna move it down to its lowest position and then just basically retighten the bed after it's at its lowest position. So it can't go any further now, so what I'm gonna do is hold on to the sides and tighten. With this build plate design, it seems like you're not gonna really have to level this that often, which is pretty cool. So now I should be able to raise this back up. I'm gonna pour some resin in and we'll get our first test print going. It's pretty quick and easy setup here. Probably spent more time talking to you guys than it would have taken to actually just run through and set this up. One thing that it did not come with are rubber gloves as well. So you'll want to pick up some of these as well as some IPA or cleaning solution to actually clean off your prints. All right, I'm gonna fire this up, put this back on. Give it a go. All right, it's done. Let's get it off the print bed here. This took about 7 hours to print. One thing that you'll also need is a spatula here. I have a metal and a plastic one. I'll have links down below to this online. It's also good to have, I like these lunch trays here to keep everything a little bit more tidy so that I'm not making a huge mess. If you've seen my other videos, you know I'm a big fan of these pickle jars as well. I've got some isopropanol alcohol in here that I've used to clean some other prints. That's why it's got a little bit of a yellow tint to it, but I can just drop that in there and then just wash it clean. I'm also going to use these flat clippers just to trim off the supports off of the print here. All right, we'll let this dry and then we'll take a closer look at it. All right, second print is done. These are some Lord of the Rings rings here in a few different sizes. Printed nicely as I'm spilling resin. And again, just gonna clean these up real quick, get them off the build plate here. Snap these. Actually, I could probably just pop them off. Oops. There you go. Get them cleaned up. All right, next up, I've printed my go-to favorite file. This is the Mimic from the Cast and Play crew. It looks like it came out pretty darn nice. So I'm gonna get this cleaned up here.